Hello everyone. It's been a while since I made a video, but now Blizzard has given me the new card list for the upcoming core set, and I thought this is an amazing opportunity to make some content to give you an extremely quick take on what the cards on the core set are going to be. I'm going to be going over all the cards that are leaving, all the cards that are coming new to the core set, what importantly is staying, and they're also going to do some nerfs and buffs to cards that are coming and leaving the core set. So we're going to have a look at these. To not keep you waiting any longer, let's dive right into it. Let's have a look at the card set. So we're going to start out with the neutrals, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And we're going to have the entire League of the Explorer leaving. So we have Reno, Elise, Bran, and Finley leaving. None of these cards really saw too much play. The only card that did really see a lot of play was Bran. Bond Spirit saw a lot of play, and the card is leasing. Means there's going to be a lot less combo potential for some of the cards, for example, and quite specifically Arcelor. OTK combos are going to be reduced, and I think a lot of people are happy about that. Some people that love it will be a little bit less happy, but there are so many amazing new cards. Let's look at a little bit at what is leaving as well. Face Manipulator, Mossy Horror, Mana Saber, Devourer, Infiltrator, Violet Teacher, Lone Champion. None of these cards really were played. The only three cards that were played recently was Acidic Swamp Ooze as anti-weapon take in people's ETCs, but that is immediately getting replaced by Rustwood Viper, which to me arguably is kind of just like the better version of Ooze, so I'm quite happy with that replacement. And then two of the other cards that have been played, that have seen play, Mistress of Mixtures, and we have Murloc Tinyfin. Murloc Tinyfin, especially in token-based decks, in some Shaman seeing play, and Mistress of Mixtures namely seeing play in OTK Warlock. But of course that deck is rotating by itself as well. So that card is going to be out, and I'm going to be going a little bit over all the new cards that are back. So I already said Rustwood Viper was in the game, is now becoming a core card, so it's not leaving, so we're still having some good weapon destruction. The card that the community voted on is Snowflipper Penguin. If there's some hero power synergy tour guide, I'm just going to go over the cards a little bit and give a thought on which of those were good. You can see Royal Librarian, for example, the Silence tradable was buffed. This card was played in trade-heavy decks, especially focused around the Demon Hunter quest, so that could be a playable card, even though I don't foresee it. Glacial Shard used to be played in some decks for the elemental synergy and for the freezing synergy. This card also used to say battle cry freeze an enemy. I'm going to go over all the changes one more time. An enemy minion, but you can now also freeze face, and I think that is a big difference against some decks, especially big Draka weapons. Even though I don't think that the card will see it in a lot of decks, this might be useful discover auction to find out. Mermy also. Mermy I think is a very interesting card, because I was thinking if DK had access to a 1/1 reborn, that would be much better than a lot of the 1-drops that they play. And this is giving DK another really good 1-drop, as well as Tour Guide. Tour Guide actually is also a decent 1-drop, because it sets up for some of the turns that they want to do, where they maybe want to buff the hero power with some of the undead synergy that they have. So Mermy and Tour Guide are some really interesting 1-drops that are going to be played in a few decks. Mermy I think less so, but Mermy being an undead token with Reborn, giving you 2 corpses in DK, I think this card will see play, in Tour Guide has always seen played in more aggressive kind of decks. And then another card that stand out, Dread Corsair, I think has a possibility to see play just because it might cost 0 mana, and there have been a lot of weapons revealed, so there is a possibility that some decks manage to slot this in, whereas I don't see the deck right now, but Dread Corsair is always a card to keep in the back of your mind when you're building decks. Then a really big card is Cult Neophyte, and Cult Neophyte, honestly, it scares me a lot. Because if you think about, and I'm going to go a little bit ahead of what's coming up, Shadow Step is remaining in core. So you can think about Cult Neophyte, Shadow Step, Shadow Step, Shadow Step, Shadow Step, Shadow Step. With a graveyard on board, you have suddenly no more counterplay. There's no more counterplay. Cult Neophyte, Shadow Step 3 times with a graveyard on board. You cannot play spells. Your opponent has a 14/14 on the board. This seriously scares the crap out of me in terms of like how powerful this could be. But of course, we're going to have to see. This is the biggest, I think, comeback that we're seeing in terms of rotation to the core set. Then the other cards that we're seeing here, not that big of a deal. Armor Vendor has been used in a few decks. I'm not really sure if it will be super useful. I don't think so. Dirty Red, of course, is a huge one to come back. Definitely think Dirty Red could be very potent when combo decks are big, when especially important minions are great. Dirty Red, for example, right now against Miracle Rogue would be pretty good. Sometimes get out the Draka, get out like other cards that are important to the gameplay. So Dirty Red is definitely a huge addition to core set. I don't think Ragnaros the Fire Lord and Dr. Boom are going to see play. The cards are just kind of too slow in this day and age. But I think Ziliax does have the possibility to see some play. Just Magnetic Divine Shield, Taunt, Life Steal Rush is pretty good and pretty annoying removal for some more aggressive decks to face. And there is going to be a decent amount of mech synergy in this new set. We've already seen a lot of mech cards revealed. So this card could be potent. And then the Black Knight is a 4-mana 4/4. This is also much cheaper than it used to be. So this could be a potent tech card. So going over the neutrals, recapping quickly. Tour Guide probably useful. Mummy very likely useful in DK. Dread Corsair, keep an eye on that. Cult Neophyte, very scary. Dirty Rat and Ziliax are my predictions for what is going to be great in the core set. And let's move on to the full update. There's going to be some card adjustments, some cards that are returning to core, and some cards that are coming back are changed a little bit. Let's actually just go over this list first. We have a few set changes, so cards are getting nerfs and buffs. Specifically, pretty much all cards in this list are getting buffed. We have Flame Reaper is now a 5/3 weapon, used to be a 4/2. Still think it's probably, I mean, that's a lot of damage for 7 mana, so it could maybe even be playable, but I don't think it will be. Glavesmith used to be a 3/2, is now a 3/3. I don't think it will be playable. Wrathgate Naga used to be a 3/1, is now a 3/3. Also don't think it will be playable. Metamorphosis as 4 damage is a lot more potent. I actually could see this. Ancient of Lore becomes a 7 mana 7/7 instead of a 7 mana 5/5, and also restores 7 HP. This is a significant card to the buff to the card. We've already seen some stuff where this is a larger minion based druid in the newest expansion, so this could actually see some play. Druid of the Claw buffed from a 5 mana 4/6 to a 6 mana 4/6, but of course the tokens are different. It's a 7/6 rush and a 4/9 taunt. The taunt is much bigger. Wouldn't foresee this see any play. I think there's always going to be better options. Soul of the Forest. This is going to be a good aggro druid card at 3 mana now, giving all your minions a 2/2 death battle. High Main became a 7/5 instead of a 6/5. Babbling Book is now a 1/2. Crucible Champion is a 4/2 that heals now for 1 more. Don't really see this having too much of an impact. Consecration deals 2 damage to all enemies now for 3 mana, so for 1 mana less. Think this card could see some play. Then Draconid Operative from a 5 mana 5/6 to a 4 mana 4/5. Actually a lot more viable card right now. I think I really like the flavor tech of Operative. And some Burgle cards are staying. So Burgle Priest could still be a thing, and it could be interesting. And I do think the 4 mana 2/6 taunt is still a better minion. Because it gets you a card from hand, and 2/6 taunt is just better stat line. This might actually make the cut as well. At 5 mana, I was just a little bit too late and a little bit too slow. Holy Nova, namely, now goes face. The text almost looks the same. It only used to do damage to minions, but it also now deals damage to your opponent's face. I don't really think that will make much of a difference. I think the card is still unplayable. Conjurer 1/2, Swashbuckler 1/2. Conjurer, again, I said if there's a Burgle Priest deck, these cards will probably see play. Swashbuckler, I don't foresee seeing any play. Feral Spirits, now only Overload for 1 mana crystal. Another buff, and it's a nature spell. We've already seen Overload Shaman being hinted in the last expansion, so this card could definitely see some play. Menacing Nimbus is now a 2/3. Hex now costs 3 mana again, so Hex is definitely, as a nature spell especially, I think is a viable option. And Hellfire now costs 3 mana. I think all of these cards are actually now viable options in the new sets. Some of the slower minions I don't really believe in, but like Hex, Hellfire, Feral Spirits, maybe the Priest cards, and Consecration, maybe Metamorphosis, buff to the point where they could actually be playable. Then new to core, we have Witchwood Apple, sure that card gets buffed but is unplayable. Macaw, add a random beast, unplayable. Flame Geyser deals 2 damage, add a 1/2 elemental to your hand, as a fire spell as well. This could definitely be playable. It's basically just an alternative to First Flame. I'm not sure if that card is rotating, but Another thing is we have already seen some very potent holy synergy in the new core set. Hammer of Wrath, deal 3, draw a card, could be okay. I don't seem it to be amazing. So Priest is getting a lot of changes. They're getting a lot of overheal cards, right? Instead of if this minion is heal, you can overheal. Overheal being the new mechanic where if you heal something to more than full HP, you get the effect. Crimson Clergy, I can already say this. This card is coming new. So when you overheal, you draw a card. The overheal will only trigger on this minion, but this is another way that Priest in some more minion board centric deck could get some power. Evelyn Minstrel became a 3/3 instead of a 3/2. Fan of Knives only costs 2 mana. Ancestral Knowledge is back, and this is really interesting because there's and it's Overload 1, it used to be Overload 2, and there's a lot of Overload synergetic cards in the core set already for Shaman, so this is really a card to keep an eye on. Armadillo got buffed by 1 HP, the weapon was always useless. I don't see any of these cards being great. Black Knight, of course, is a tech W. Alright, and let's now dive right into the big overview, and then we're going to summarize some of the winners and some of the losers of this core set rotation. So leaving core, we have Chaos Nova, Sightless Watcher, and Corvo Bloodthorn. And new to core, we have Kane Sun Fury to ignore some taunts, Immolation Aura to get really good removal, and Illidari Studies, probably the best outcast card that Demon Hunter ever had, just because of its incredible flexibility to always be outcast. So Demon Hunter wins very clearly, getting some much better cards in here. Not really sure how this will position Demon Hunter at the end, but Immolation Aura is a very welcome removal tool. Then for Druid, we have Fandral leaving. Earthen Scales. Earthen Scales used to be really important armor gain. The Quest is also leaving. That was also an important armor gain for Druid. So armor gain in Druid is going to be a lot more limited right now. But we have coming back Solar Eclipse, Lunar Eclipse, Witchwood Apple, which is useless, and Kiri Choose Nafaloon, which gives you a Solar and a Lunar Eclipse. I don't think that Kiri will be playable, but Solar and Lunar Eclipses have been very good. It's basically like the whole Lunar Eclipse stacking to be able to survive the early game in order to ramp, like Nourish and Wild Growth are staying for sure. So Druid is still going to have access to all of the ramping, and they're going to be able to do so more effectively. I think Solar and Lunar Eclipse are incredibly good cards, and Druid, I would also say, is a winner of those changes. Then we have Hunter. We have 4 cards leaving that saw barely any play. Shaw, Snake Trap, Dire Frenzy, Cloaked Huntress, and Springpaw, and we're getting back Dragonbane. After you use your hero power, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. We've already seen some mech synergy. This card is quite potent together with a card that we saw earlier, which is the Tour Guide that lets you use your hero power for 0. So these 2 cards together can work quite well. Wandering Monster is back, and Wandering Monster is pretty much my favorite hunter secret ever. It's just really useful to stop your opponent from attacking your face, and Cat Track is one of the best hunter secrets ever, so really excited for some hunter secret synergy. And little bonus coming at the end. Why Wandering Monster and Cat Trick? They're not gonna be hunter cards. They're gonna be row cards, and it's gonna make me real happy because my favorite deck is back. Alright, I'm getting ahead of myself. Mage, Kaligos, Flamestrike, Pyromaniac, Conjurer, and Kekona Cold are leaving. And we have Stargate Luna, Firelands Portal, Fire Sail, Flame Gazier, and Arcane Artificer coming back. The cards that I think are really interesting here are Stargazer Luna. If there's any sort of like mana reduction where you play like the top deck card, this could be pretty useful. Looking at the cards that are coming back that are new, I don't really see too much in any of those cards specifically. We'll have to see a little bit how Mage evolves. To me, Mage not the greatest winner of this rotation. We have now in Paladin, we have leaving Reckoning, Avenge, Noble Sacrifice, and Ragnaros the Light. We're rotating some really useless cards, and we're getting back Muster for Battle, Hand of Vidal. This probably could also be reverted to giving a minion +2/+2 and drawing a card. Yeah, really good holy card. Then you have some, for the rest of the game, after you summon a Silverhand Recruit, give a Divine Shield, so you have some more Silverhand synergy. I don't really see the Silverhand synergy being too great, but I do think that Muster for Battle might be a fine standalone card to play in a lot of decks, because just 3 1/1s and the 1 for a weapon are decent in order to be able to like establish some early board against a bunch of decks. I don't think you need to play Silverhand Synergy for Muster for Battle to be a good card. And Hand of Adalus being card draw, I could also see if there's enough Holy Synergy where you just want to jam a bunch of Holy spells. We have seen, and this is a general idea in Paladin that has been revealed in the new set, is there is some general idea to be able to only have a certain amount of attack minions and certain really big minions in your Paladin deck, and then you want to play a bunch of spells on top of that. And Muster for Battle perfectly fits that strategy, where you have something that builds a board and kind of lets you take control of the mid to early game. Same with Hammer of Wrath, without actually having to put a minion in your deck. So really keep an eye on those two cards. Moving on, Priest. Priest is getting completely changed. Murasant, Lyra, Radiant is going bye-bye. Bye-bye Boon Priest. I mean, Boon Priest is, I think, rotating anyway, but Svalna Priest is also being rotated. Norshire Cleric for the card draw engine is being rotated and replaced by Crimson Clergy. The new mechanic in Priest is Overheal, where you overheal your minion. What they're trying to push for is a minion-centric early board-based deck. Seeing here, we get Dark Bishop Benedictus back, and this is something that I alluded to when we looked at the Tour Guide. Tour Guide was always really good when we had proactive, good board-controlling hero powers, and Shadow Priest was the best one of those. And with Dark Bishop Benedictus being back, Tour Guide and Benedictus in a kind of deck like this that lets you play a proactive 1-drop while maintaining the board for later stages is really, really good. Tour Guide is also like not an undead, so for example, an undead Priest, this works really, really well. Shadow of the Naru is also back, so Priest is always going to have control tools for silencing. Then we're going to get to Rogue, and in Rogue, the interesting part is not only what is here, but also what is not here. Rogue is using Vanessa, Sprint, Blade, Sinister Strike, Tomb Pillager, Plague Scientist, and Blood. Nobody's going to miss any of those cards, maybe Sprint a little bit, but now that we have potions, Sprint is basically fallen completely out of favor and is like unplayable. The cards that are coming back for Rogue are Shadow Driller Harnar, and I alluded to that a little bit earlier already. The secret pool is pretty insane. Looking at all the secrets that you can discover, of course you have Plagiarize and Ambush and Cheat Death coming back, especially Cheat Death together with Hanar is pretty crazy. You play Hanar, you play Cheat Death, it gets killed, you get it back for 0, and here we go again. Plagiarize, also the most powerful Rogue secret I think that they ever had. That is some really insane setup. If we're going to look a little bit at the secret pool, this card is staying. Emergency Maneuvers, really strong card, is staying. Ice Trap is leaving, but we have Freezing Trap and Explosive Trap, which are still super strong secrets, are staying. Together with Zombies, also really strong secret to discover. A really potent secret. Then in Mage, we have Explosive Runes and Counterspell, which are very good. And most of all, we have Objection. And Vengeful Visage is probably not that good. Oasis Allies is leaving, so the spell and secret pool is becoming smaller in Mage, so you're more likely to hit Objection again. Now, all the secrets in Paladin are leaving. That is a big hit for Hanar, because it always used to like be able to discover a cheap Paladin secret and keep on spinning, like, you know, you go like Paladin secret, different secret, Paladin secret, and so on and so on and so on. But that doesn't really work anymore because all the Paladin secrets are going to be gone. So there's a little bit of a nerf to Hanar. Cards like Perjury are still going to be in. So there's some decent synergy for Hanar, and I'm really excited for this card. It used to be one of my favorite cards ever in the game. All right, but let's return here to other cards that are coming back for Rogue, and you see cards that are not leaving, and people have speculated a lot about this. Shadow Step is not leaving core. People were really thinking Shadow Step was going to leave, but Shadow Step, especially with Cult Neophyte being back in the game and having the potential of making your opponents like spells costing 4 more in the same turn as you make like a 10/10 minion with your graveyard, is a terrifying, absolutely terrifying thing to be in the game. Elven Minstrel for combo synergy, sure. Fan of Knives, that's actually a decent card draw. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemies, and draw a card. That's actually pretty decent. So Rogue got some really good cards back. Big winner, absolutely being Rogue, especially since I didn't lose Prep or Shadow Step. So all the mana cheap cards are still going to be in the game. Then Shaman. We already spoke about Shaman getting a buff to a Hex, being back to 3 mana, and Feral Spirits getting a buff. Krogwa, Mana Tide Totem, Maelstrom Totem, Tidal Surge, and Rockbiter are all leaving. and we're getting more Totem Synergy back, and we're getting more Overload cards back. So Overdraft is not leaving the standard, Ancestral Knowledge is staying, Zap is staying, all setting up for as well Totem Synergy, even though ISO I don't think will ever get played. Also don't think Thing from Below is going to be great, but what they have revealed is a lot of Overload Synergy and Shaman. These cards fit really, really well. The cards we're getting back is Voidcaller, Enhanced Dreadlord, Mal'Ganis, Spirit Golem, and Defile. Defile, I think, is some people's favorite card of all time because of all the Defile puzzles and stuff like that. It's really, really potent aura removal for Warlock. We'll see how big demons are going to be integrated in the Warlock sets. Right now, of course, I don't see anything, but I am confident they're going to do something with the rotation. And of course, Voidcaller into something like Enhanced Dreadlord is still extremely powerful. Warrior is getting a big overhaul. A lot of cards are changing in Warrior. Warrior's not been doing super hot. I mean, Warx is finally leaving, Gorehouse for leaving, Shield Maiden, Armorsmith, Pirate Deckhand, Cowley. Nobody will miss these cards. And on top of that, Warrior is getting back Heavy Plate, so it doesn't lose any of the super important armor gain tool, Blightstorm. Used to be a really potent removal card, as well as Dynomatic and Sword Eater. All these were really powerful cards that Warrior is very happy to come and have back. And then, of course, you have Frightened Flunky, which used to be a really fun card together with Armagadillo that used to work in Standard, and it has some really nice synergy with a card that I want to show you already in Warrior right now, and it is the new spell. You have Training Session. Discover a taunt minion. If you play it this turn, repeat it. So together with the possibility to discover a flunky, you can actually get quite a lot of taunts discovered and get a lot of value if you need in some of the matchups. So you can keep your deck a little bit lighter, but then still discover a lot of value if you're going late game and put more removal into Warrior. Of course, we're still going to be a little bit hungry for some important Warrior win conditions. We'll see what they are. Warrior being a little bit down in the dumpster, hoping to get a little bit revived. And I think Dynomatic, for example, is a good card. And Blightstorm is an interesting card. As long as I see Graveyard being a card and Shadowstep and Neophyte being in the game, I'm a little bit skeptical of the ability of these cards to really shine. I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of the review of all the sets that are here. To me, the greatest winners of this core set rotation are Shaman, because they're getting some good Overload cards back. Then Rogue, because mostly it's not losing Shadowstep and it's getting some really useful cards back. Then as well, we have Druid. I think Druid and Demon Hunter, I think, are really big winners to me because they're losing some quite useless cards. And they're getting cards that are, in my opinion, quite decent and are going to be able to elevate a few decks quite a little bit. But who's surprised that the Rogue is once more the winner, because it mostly just gets to keep all the amazing stuff that they already have. Let me know what you guys think about the core set evaluation that I've just given, about all the cards that are coming back to the game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what is your thought process on the core set yourself. Are you happy with the changes? Is there something you would have seen differently? What are you happy to see leave, and what are you happy to see come back? Hope you guys have a great day, and always remember that you're valuable and you matter. Bye bye.